Hello, senior living folks. I am so glad to welcome you to another episode of Foresight TV. This is one I've been really looking forward to doing. I didn't tell them I was going to say this because they probably would have hated me for it, but unfortunately, and I think wrongly, sometimes lead aggregators like Caring.com are looked at as sort of being like the IRS. And I'm actually, I actually believe they play a really, really important role in the senior living microcosm, and they actually help communities in really amazing ways, which is why. And we also believe they're not all the same. Not going to talk about competitors, but we don't believe they're all the same. And we would not have them as a senior living Foresight partner if we did not believe in what they're doing and they're actually making the business better. So we're actually going to talk about some myths about lead aggregation, but let's start with this.
Hey guys, Steve Moran here.
So I want to welcome Jason. I'm going to butcher this. I'm going to apologize in advance. Persinger.
Yes, sir. That's right on.
Oh, good. And Han Huang.
Perfect.
Didn't get that quite right. Almost
that
right.
Was perfect.
Both with Caring.com. And I already sort of set this up that there is sort of this, I don't know how else to say it, but there's sort of this ongoing hostility towards the lead aggregation websites, feeling that they take a lot of money. And there are really some big myths. We have a list of five myths that we believe are simply not true. And the first one is that it costs too much money. So I'm going to I'd love to have you guys just talk about why this is a myth and not a truth.
Sure. I mean, I'll take this one first. Steve, I mean, we partner with around 10,000 communities in the senior living space, and I don't hear it from our partners that they say that we're too expensive. You know what they're saying? They're saying that the most expensive bed is the empty one. Send us more leads and more move-ins is what they're telling us. But I think probably the best way to debunk a myth is with math, because we're talking about expense. Let's just work with the math. The better question is Caring.com driving positive ROI? Not are we too expensive? Are you driving positive ROI? Let me just give you an example. Let's say we charge 85% of 1 month's rent and care. And let's say that your margin on a room is 20%, profit margin. Basically, you break even on paying the fee to us in about 4 months. And if average length of stay is 20 months, the ROI is actually 300%. I mean, where can you go marketing wise where you can get a 300% ROI and you don't pay a dime until we actually deliver a resident to you? So I think that is the more key question here instead of are we too expensive?
Yeah, and I guess, sort of related to that question is, and we're going to spend some more time in this area along the way, is when I look at it, I think that, again, you sort of stated it right. The most expensive thing, the highest expense is actually an empty unit, way more expensive than what you get paid. And from my perspective, and we've talked about this before, but from my perspective is if you can go fill that unit without using Caring, an aggregator, you should go do that for sure. Right?
Sure.
This is about, and we've talked about this offline, that if you can go do that, that's the best thing that you can do. But I think one of the things that get missed is that even using other sources, we know, as I talk to operators, their cost of acquisition is not insignificant, typically somewhere between $1,000 and $2,000 a move-in. So it's not like those are free and you're costing money. So anything else you want to add to that, Jason?
Well, yeah, I mean, I was just going to say, Han kind of touched on it, but the reality is standing up a new channel or a new program to attract residents has a lot of risk involved in it. And our typical agreement we're not paid until you have somebody moved in and are collecting rent from that consumer or that. So I don't know how many channels are out there are basically risk-free.
Yep. Absolutely. So I want to actually move on to the next thing, and it's sort of related to what we've already talked about. But the idea is that these leads, you're basically taking leads that would come for. I think the sort of the attitude is they'd come for free. Leads rarely come for free. I guess somebody maybe drives by
free lunch
and comes and walks in, but even then, they don't really come for free. And what you're basically taking is people are ending up and having to pay for leads that that they would get for free. It'd be like me growing a garden in my backyard and having to pay the grocery store to go out and pick my own vegetables or something, right?
Sure. Well, sure. We track what's called duplicate leads. So those are leads that we send to a community, and that person is already in their database, right? And we don't charge for duplicate leads. If they already had that lead, that's your lead, and we can't charge the fee. And so I think that's just a practical agreement we have with them. If this myth was true that we're basically delivering residents that they would have already gotten in the first place for free, you would think that duplicate lead rate would be pretty high and substantial, and actually it's less than 5%. And so, and some of that 5% actually is duplicate of leads from other referral sources, not just their own organic walk-in traffic. And so just again, I'm a math guy, so sorry about all these numbers, but let's just say the 5% is there. 95% of our leads are purely incremental. We're driving it to the community, and they wouldn't have gotten it in the first place.
Yeah. The other interesting thing there is,
Jason, I'm going to stop you for a second. I've got to get you to pay a little more attention to where you are in the frame, because we're only seeing about half your face.
Oh, okay. Wrong way. There we
go. Perfect.
There?
Yeah, that's perfect.
Good deal. Yeah, sorry. So the other thing there on that 5% that may be duplicative, those are hand raisers that are saying, hey, I'm still in the market. I still have a need that hasn't been met. And so actually, we kind of are nudging the community that duplicate shows up in, that, hey, I'm still a warm prospect. Come and work my lead. Maybe I'll move in soon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So this is, but I want to dig a little deeper into this sort of duplicate lead kind of thing. The argument that if I were an operator and I was sort of frustrated by it, the argument I would make is that it would be to look at it a little differently and say, you know what? If you guys, the lead aggregators in general did not exist at all, I would still get those leads. Those leads would come in. Well, what do you say to that? I mean, to me, that's sort of the most compelling argument.
Yeah, I mean, I think especially in the digital marketing kind of environment or world, like Google's actually kind of created this landscape and this dynamic, because they mine search intent and user intent a ton, because they've got a platform where they need return visitors, and the consumer's kind of spoken that they want kind of an intermediate party to consolidate information. So, unless the providers are willing to put all of their stuff onto one site and manage everything there, the consumer has an unmet need.
Yeah, I mean, Steve, the marketing that we're on is marketing that the providers themselves probably can't compete on, because Google is saying that we have the information, we have the directory of many communities, we have the content. And so when somebody's searching for assisted living options in Charlotte, North Carolina, they're going to favor a caring.com, and really the providers, since they don't provide the multiple options, they're not going to show up. So these leads wouldn't be generated to the operators anyway.
Yeah. So what you're really saying is that, and I think maybe this is one of the things we need to spend a little bit of time talking about. I don't know how much of this you're comfortable disclosing, but when you put the reason that you show up at near the top on any given Google search is it doesn't happen because for free, right? I mean, you guys spend a ton of money.
We invest a lot of dollars doing that.
Yeah. So, and I mean, you've already said this, but you're spending money that otherwise communities would have to spend.
Mm-hmm.
And if they're doing their own SEO, and we're going to talk more about it, which isn't easy to do, it means that they end up sort of duplicating the effort, not duplicating, but it means they've got a two-pack where people are going to see their name twice, once with you and once with their own organic listing if they're doing it right.
And I would think about the business model of an operator, right? Yes, they have to have sales and marketing capabilities, but they also have to be able to staff the building. They have to be able to provide care. They have to be able to provide resident services. They have a whole bunch of stuff that they have to worry about. We specialize in marketing. And so what we invest all of our energy and dollars is be able to provide them opportunities to get those new residents. And that's why we do win in those SEO spaces, because that's our business.
Yep. Yeah. So there are people who are saying, I'm just going to go up my own. I don't need lead aggregators. I don't want to do that.
Sure.
What do you say to that?
I say, are you 100% full? Average AL occupancy is 78% right now. Okay, the pandemic really took it from about mid 80s to low 70s, and it's bouncing back. What I tell a partner, a community, if they're 100% full and they have a long wait list and they did it on their own, I say phenomenal. Our services may not be as valuable to you, but the average community in AL is 78%. That means that they need help, not just from us, from other sources. I never say don't solely use us, use other sources as well, so that you can drive your building to a healthy occupancy level. And that's just the reality of where we are today.
Yeah, I just, to me, that's the most compelling argument of all. Occasionally, when I'm going to look at Senior Living Foresight for a minute, right? We talk to a lot of people about becoming partners with us, and I would say that through the years, we've had a couple of companies that we've talked to where they've actually have such a compelling product, they've done such a compelling job on their own that they don't need us. And you know what? If you don't need us, God bless you. I'm so happy for you, because there are lots of people who need us and who we can make a difference for. And so, I think that, I guess my response to be, and I don't know, you maybe hate me saying this, right? But my response is, if somebody says that, if you can, the best way to get rid of caring.com is to go out and do it so well you don't need them. But if you have empty beds, empty units, why not get them, right?
And there's so many right now. So I think that if you're sitting at 78% and you think that you can do it all on your own, why are you at 78%? Let us help you to get to 85, 90%.
Right. And do you have clients who are above 90% now?
On average, we don't have, no client has come to us to say across the portfolio, they're above 90%. They have buildings that are 100%. They have buildings that are 50%.
Gotcha. Yeah. So, and in those cases, they're not paying you anything. Right.
Well,
they may have paid you to get there, right? But they're not. Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly.
So the other thing that I hear about is lead quality, and I'm gonna, if you're willing or not, I'm gonna sort of drag you into some muddy territory in this. But I'm gonna have you guys talk a little bit about the poor lead quality of those aggregator leads.
Yeah. Well, here, let me start out with this. I think a lot of that is perception. Here's what we do with our leads. So the leads that refer to our communities are people who've inquired about senior living options. A family advisor has had a long conversation to do everything from budget discovery to ADLs and care needs to amenities, like do they have a pet, and location requirements for the various options. So these leads are screened. And when they get to the community, they've had that conversation. And really, it's a lead, though. It's not a resident. We deliver leads, and they need to be called immediately. They need to be nurtured. They need to be sold, right? What happens is sometimes the communities, they've had that myth in their head, caring.com lead is poor quality. They may not work that lead immediately. that's a self-fulfilling prophecy. If they're not going to work that lead, it's never going to convert, and they're going to think it's poor lead quality. And I've seen the data. I've got communities, with the 10,000 communities that we partner with, we got communities at 0% conversion. We got communities at over 20% conversion on a substantial number of leads. There's a huge range. And what we find is that the communities that really work our lead, that really believe that they can get these folks into their building, really have a high success. So it's a lot of it is we're trying to stomp out that myth and tell them this is the process. And if you work these leads, you will have success.
Yeah. Jason?
Well, yeah, I mean, another way to kind of look at it or think about it is if somebody's kind of showing up at a community already, they've probably done a lot of research and been very selective, and are close to that point of signing a lease. The reality is, a lot of the people that we talk to are more of a shopper, meaning they're comparing their options, and they may not be quite as close to that lease signing event, or they're potentially a more thoughtful purchaser than kind of some of the average. So it is a little bit different consumer most times as well.
So one of the other things that I hear sort of related to that people sort of have this impression that it degrades the quality of the leads is that because you put this lead out to a whole bunch of other communities in the local marketplace, that they get inundated and actually really turns them off, and that becomes its own problem. Do you have any thoughts about that?
I mean, that is true. Like if you're let's say you're trying to get a spot for your mom, and you get 10 different phone calls immediately and a whole bunch of emails and things like that, that's a poor customer experience. And we acknowledge that. We try to target around 4 leads per consumer. Some may get more, some may get less, but that is our target. And what we're working on internally is better technology and algorithms to really find a better match. So we can narrow the number of selections, but still, improve the chances that family will be able to get a solution for their loved one. And so, yes, we're cognizant of that. We know that it's a poor customer experience, and we're really working on it. We're not perfect, but we think that is really important.
Well, and I think the other thing that I want to come back to sort of working the leads a little bit, because I wish I busy morning this morning. I didn't really have a chance to look at it, but I was looking at a post, I think it was on LinkedIn, where somebody was talking about how they were looking for somebody in the industry was looking for senior living for a family member, and that they had put out calls to 3, 4, 5 communities, and that after a day they had heard back from maybe one, and after 3 days they hadn't heard back from anybody else. And it's I find myself thinking that there are so many things that senior living organizations could do to close more leads, that I just, I want to, if you're watching this, your salesperson, your leader, I want to beg you to figure out how to stay on top of those, because very often, if somebody calls me up and says, hey, know you're looking for senior living, tell me about what you need, and I build a rapport, that puts them way ahead of the second and the third and the fourth people that call, if they call. But if you don't call, you're never going to convert that lead. So
absolutely right.
I just think there's so much lost opportunity out there.
Couldn't agree more. I mean, the biggest competitor really of senior living is inaction and staying at home.
Yeah.
And so, you really have to compel them to come take a tour of your community and really bring that out. And it takes follow-up, and it takes nurturing that lead to be able to get a resident moving.
Yeah. And the last thing I would say sort of about that before we move on is that a few months ago, I did an interview with Stephanie Harris, who's the CEO of Arrow Senior Living. And when the pandemic first hit and things really shut down, one of the things they did is they went deep into their lead database. So they were looking at leads that were 3, 6, 8, 10, 12 months old. and just reaching out to those people and saying, hey, how are you doing? Is there anything, I'm not even trying to sell you right now. We can't even move people in. Is there anything I can do to help you? And over time, that turned into amazing occupancy numbers. And so there are so many things that could be done in that area. So SEO is easy, right?
Of course. Yeah, I think it's another bit of a myth there. We at Caring, we deploy really a small army of talented individuals that are focused on very specific parts of the kind of SEO game, if you will, from creating really great and useful content to going and promoting and marketing that content to audiences that are looking for it and looking for advice or help or more information. To technical experts, on our engineering team, we have a team dedicated to keeping our sites healthy and fast. We have a user experience team that monitors things like bounce rates and long click and other engagement signals. So, we're maniacally focused on SEO, and it takes a lot of work and effort, and a lot of that translates into it's not cheap, it's not free to do. It does take a lot of time and energy, and SEO is a slower channel to kind of establish and grow yourself in. We've been at it for well over 10 years, and so it can also be a hard channel to stand up because there's a bit of patience that's required to really win at it.
Yeah, and so much of it is experimental, and it's sort of, you guys know, and lots of research about how Google does it, but it's also a bit of a black box. I know, again, even at Senior Living Foresight, it's one of the things that we spend a fair amount of money on trying to figure out how to make a difference. And we some people say it doesn't really matter, but we pay attention to a bit of attention to the Moz scoring system, and we recently got a 1 point jump, and we were really happy about that, right? It's really hard, and you've got to be working at it all the time. And again, it's something that should be done. Denise put in that with Caring, put up this comment. I really wanted to actually spend a few minutes talking a little bit about consumer reviews. I recently wrote a story about your Caring stars, and I love this Caring stars list. I think it really highlights it. I was a little shocked by. I know the numbers were much better this year than last year, but I'm a little bit shocked by how few people make that list. And can you just talk about the power of consumer reviews?
Yeah, for sure. We see the power of consumer reviews kind of in a few different ways. Candidly, like our communities that engage with our reviews program, whether they're a paying partner or not, they end up getting a lot more interest and traffic to their pages about them or about the communities in their area. And our partners specifically, where we can measure this, is they get a ton more leads if they have more reviews and if they have a high quality of review. Some of the numbers are really interesting. Like we've run similar studies, and communities that have 16 or more reviews usually end up with 6-7 times the number of move-ins for that community than somebody that has 0 or 1 review. So that's our internal data. You can go and look for any data points on consumer reviews. I was reading some again the other day, and there's interesting tidbits of I think one I read was something like 93% of consumers trust third-party reviews as much as third-party consumer reviews as much as a friend or family member's recommendation, which is a bit baffling in my opinion. But there's a lot of strong signals there. So if you take the time to manage your reputation, and by the way, it doesn't take a 5-star rating. Actually, 5-star ratings they're met with more skepticism than 4.5 or 4.7. So if you invest there, you can really see some returns.
Yeah. Yeah, we encourage your audience, Steve, to invest in our reviews program. We have over 350,000 consumer reviews and counting. And so we just really encourage them because people are looking for it.
Yeah, I do want to say that you guys don't actually charge anything to do reviews, so people can be on reviews, not have a contract with you. They can have reviews, and I've seen some numbers on restaurants. It's been a while since I looked at it, but something like going from a 5 to a 4 will represent maybe a 10, 15, 20% drop in revenue. I mean, the numbers are massive. And so why, I guess when I look at the number of senior living communities out there, if you'd come and ask me to predict how many communities, because it takes a little bit of work, but it's not that hard to be a caring star, right? I would have guessed that, that list would be a couple thousand communities long, and to have it less than 500 is just, again, if you're full, then don't worry about it, right? But if you're not full, I mean, put some time into that stuff.
Mhm.
And mostly people are really happy to leave reviews if you just ask them. And so I just, there are so many opportunities. So I'm going to actually ask you to pretend, both of you, to pretend like you're operators for a few minutes. And if you were an operator, let's paint the scenario like this. You just got handed the keys to a building that has 80% occupancy, and you've got 90 days to get over 90%. What are you going to do to get that full? Whether you start with carrying.com, and what else would you do?
You want to go first on?
Yeah, I mean, I first signed with caring.com.
Of course.
But I mean, if I wanted to get my building full, I try to form partnerships with any referral partner I can get. There's a lot of local folks. There's other digital folks. Because at the end of the day, here's a stat for you, Steve, which was surprising and kind of sad. The highest number of cancellation reason this year from our senior living contracts is because the business closed. Business is closed because they cannot meet occupancy levels. Yeah, it's about a quarter of our cancellations.
No kidding.
And so there is for us the selfish incentive that the operators and the communities are successful, and that means using caring.com, using other sources, doing thoughtful marketing. But you have to have all of those things to come together, because you can't just get 20 points of occupancy on your own.
Yep, absolutely. And I think there are just so many things. I want to put this other statistic up that Denise just posted. I mean, this is a crazy cool number, right? Twice as many new resident inquiries, 3 times as many move-ins. For communities that have the awards, people pay attention to this stuff. I mean, I'll bet everybody watching here has gone and bought something this year, or not bought something this year because they looked at reviews and made their decision. So I get a bad review. What do I do about that?
Well, for one, you respond. You get a lot of credibility by taking the time to respond to one of those. And depending on the exact situation, there's a few different tactics. A lot of times reaching out and asking how you can correct it can go a really long way. And taking it kind of offline and asking for feedback and actually digging in and seeing if there is an improvement that you can make. Or if the consumer just didn't feel heard, sometimes they'll actually remove it if you take the time to go and understand that, and they'll actually take it down, proactively on their own, which again is only going to help your average star rating and the perspective that's out there about your community.
Yeah. And I was to just say, the other thing is you're going to have some bad reviews. Any business is going to have bad reviews, but if you invest in the reviews program, you'll have a lot of good reviews to be able to drown out the bad reviews.
Yeah, and that's probably the most powerful thing, right? And of course, this all presumes that you're doing a good job, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you got a lot of bad reviews, then you probably need to take a hard look at how you're running your business. But reach out to Caring and say, help me figure this out, because I mean, one of the reasons I love you guys so much is that you do not just treat this industry as a piggy bank. I've spent a lot of time talking to Denise and other people on your team, and I know you are really committed to making the industry better. You guys put out great webinar resources for salespeople to grow and get better. And I just really appreciate that, because, as you know, our single highest value at Senior Living Foresight is to make the industry better, because when we know the industry is better, it means that it's better for residents, it's better for resident families, and it's better for team members. And so I really appreciate what you do. And again, if you can get full without Caring or any lead aggregators, you should do, at a lower cost, you should do that. But if you've got empty units, why not get them full this way? And why not take advantage of things like the Caring Stars and the Caring Review program? So anything else, any last words from you? We're about out of time here.
No, that's it for me.
I mean, we really appreciate you having us on and having this conversation. I think it's important.
Actually, I want to address one. We have a comment. I'm not going to put it up, but I actually want to address one other issue, because I think it's one I hear a lot, and that's this idea that that you guys will only refer leads to people who you have contracts with, when there might be a building out there that would be a better fit. And if you don't want to address it, I will, because maybe I'm actually going to start, and I'm going to let you add color to it. That is true, but it's true in every single business that exists, right? If you walk into my senior living community and I decide you're really not a right fit, and I know there's another building, I might make that referral. But mostly my focus is selling on whatever it is I'm selling. At Senior Living Foresight, you come to me and you want to be a sponsor. I'm not going to be selling for anybody else. And I'm not going to be selling for other partners that are not people. And I just think that that's the way business works. And so that would, and it's true for any business out there, right? You talk about the local referral people. They're not sending people generally to buildings that don't fit. They're sending them to people where they're going to get paid, because it's their job to do that. So
yeah,
I do want to address that.
Well, that's why we have 10,000 community partners, because we want to provide that option, as well as make sure that we're vetting them. We know where to send the referrals, right? And these are trusted to be able to handle referrals appropriately. So
yeah. And so I would just add that if you want access to those leads, you're not getting, the best way to do that is to have a contract. And so
correct.
Anyway, guys, thank you very much. Love the conversation.
Thanks,
love what you're doing to change the industry, and we will be back next week.
Sounds good.
Okay. Thanks, Steve. Appreciate you.